After that, the index of the smaller element is incremented to point to its immediate successor in the array it was copied from. This operation is repeated until one of the two given arrays is exhausted, and then the remaining elements of the other array are copied to the end of the new array. See the algorithm and example with figure. Now let us see analysis. Here the basic operation is key comparison, as merge or sort execution does not depend on the order of the data. Best case and average case runtime are the same as worst case runtime. Worst case, during key comparison neither of the two arrays becomes empty before the other one contains just one element leads to the worst case of the merge sort. Assuming for simplicity that the total number of elements in n is a power of 2 and the recursion relation for the number of keys comparison C of n is as shown in the figure, where C merge of n is the number of key comparison made during the merging stage. Let us analyze C merge of n, the number of key comparisons performed during the merging stage. At each step exactly one comparison is made, after which the total number of elements in the two arrays still needing to be processed is reduced by 1. In the worst case, neither of the two arrays becomes empty before the other one contains just one element. Example, smaller elements may come from the alternating arrays. Therefore, for the worst case, C merge of n is equal to n minus 1. Now, see the equation. Solving the recurrence equation using Master's theorem. Here a is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, f of n is equal to n, d is equal to 1. Therefore, 2 is equal to 2 to the power of 1. Case 2 holds in the Master theorem. C worst of n is equal to theta of n to the power of d log n is equal to theta of n to the power of 1 log n is equal to theta of n log n. Therefore, C worst of n is equal to theta of n log n. Advantages. The number of comparisons performed is nearly optimal. For large n, the number of comparisons made by this algorithm is the average case turns out to be about 0.25 n less, and hence is always in theta of n log n. Merge sort will never degrade to big O of n square. Another advantage of merge sort over quicksort and heap sort is its stability. A sorting algorithm is said to be stable if two objects with equal keys appear in the same order in sorted output as they appear in the input array to be sorted. Limitations. The principal shortcoming of merge sort is the linear amount O of n of extra storage the algorithm requires. Though merging can be done in place, the resulting algorithm is quite complicated and of theoretical interest only. Variations of merge sort. First, the algorithm can be implemented bottom up by merging pairs of the array's elements, then merging the sorted pairs, and so on. If n is not a power of 2, only slight bookkeeping complications arise. This avoids the time and space overhead of using a stack to handle recursive calls. Second, we can divide a list to be sorted in more than two parts, sort each recursively, and then merge them together. This scheme, which is particularly useful for sorting files residing on secondary memory devices, is called multi-way merge sort. Now let us see quicksort. Quicksort is the other important sorting algorithm that is based on the divide and conquer approach. Unlike merge sort, which divides its input elements according to their position in the array, quicksort divides or partitions them according to their value. A partition is an arrangement of the array's elements so that all the elements to the left of some element A of S are less than or equal to A of S, and all the elements to the right of A of S are greater than or equal to it. See the equation. Obviously, after a partition is achieved, A of S will be in its final position in the sorted array. and we can continue sorting the two sub-arrays to the left and to the right of AFS independently. Example, by the same method, in Quicksort the entire work happens in the division stage with no work required to combine the solutions to the sub-problems. See the algorithm. Now let us see partitioning. We start by selecting a pivot, an element with respect to whose value we are going to divide the sub-array. There are several different strategies for selecting a pivot. We use the sophisticated method suggested by C.A.R. Hoare, the prominent British computer scientist who invented Quicksort. Select the sub-array's first element P is equal to F1. Now can scan the sub-array from both ends, comparing the sub-array's elements to the pivot. The left to right scan denoted below by index pointer I starts with the second element. Since we want elements smaller than the pivot to be in the left part of the sub-array, this scan skips over elements that are smaller than the pivot and stops upon encountering the first element greater than or equal to the pivot. The right to left scan, denoted below by index pointer j, starts with the last element of the sub-array. Since we want elements larger than the pivot to be in the right part of the sub-array, this scan skips over elements that are larger than the pivot and stops on encountering the first element smaller than or equal to the pivot. After both scans stop, three situations may arise depending on whether or not the scanning indices have crossed. First, if scanning indices ij have not crossed, that is I is less than j, we simply exchange ai and aj and resume the scan by incrementing I and decrementing j respectively. See the figure. Secondly, if the scanning indices have crossed over I is greater than j, we will have partitioned the subarray after exchanging the pivot with a of j. See the figure. If the scanning indices stop while pointing to the same element, that is I is equal to j, the value they are pointing to must be equal to p. Thus, we have the subarray partitioned with the splits position s is equal to I is equal to j. See the figure. We can combine this with the case 2 by exchanging the pivot with a of j whenever I is greater than or equal to j. See the algorithm or a partition. Note that index I can go out of the sub-array's bounds in this pseudocode. Now let us see the example of Quicksort operation A. Arrays transformation with pivots shown in the bold. B. Tree of recursive calls to Quicksort with inputs values 1 and r of sub-array bounds and splits position of S of a partition obtained. See the figures. Now let us see analysis. Best case. Here the basic operation is key comparison. Number of the key comparisons made before a partition is achieved in n plus 1 if the scanning indices cross over and n if they coincide. If all the splits happen in the middle of the corresponding sub-arrays, we will have the best case. The number of key comparisons in the best case satisfies the recurrence. See the equation. According to the master theorem, C best of n belongs to theta of n log 2 n. Solving it exactly for n is equal to 2 to the power of k yields C best of n is equal to n log 2 n. Worst case. In the worst case, all the splits will be skewed to the extreme. One of the two subarrays will be empty and size of the other will be just one less than the size of the subarray being partitioned. This unfortunate situation will happen in particular for increasing arrays. Indeed, if A of 0 to n minus 1 is a strictly increasing array and we use A of 0 as the pivot, the left to right scan will stop on A of 1 while the right to left scan will go all the way to reach A of 0, indicating the split at position 0. So after making n plus 1 comparisons to get this partition and exchanging the pivot A of 0 with itself, the algorithm will be left with the strictly increasing array A of 1 to n minus 1 to sort. This sorting of this of strictly increasing arrays of diminishing sizes will continue until the last one A of n minus 2 to n minus 1 has been processed. The total number of key comparisons made will be equal to, see the equation. Now let us see average case. Let us see average of n be the average number of key comparisons made by the quicksort on a randomly ordered array of size n. A partition can happen in any position s, that is 0 is lesser than or equal to s is lesser than or equal to n minus 1. After n plus 1 comparisons are made to achieve the partition, after the partition the left and the right sub arrays will have s and n minus 1 minus s elements respectively, assuming that the partition split can happen in each positions with the position s with the same probability 1 by n, we get the following recurrence relation. See the figure. In solution which is much trickier than the worst and the best case analysis turns out to be, see the equation. Thus, on the average, quicksort makes only 39% more comparisons than in the best case. Moreover, its innermost loop is so efficient that it usually runs faster than merge sort on randomly ordered arrays of non-trivial sizes. This certainly justifies the name given to the algorithm by its inventor, variations. Because of the quicksort's importance, there have been persistent efforts over the years to refine the basic algorithm. Among several improvements discovered by researchers are better pivot selection methods such as randomized quicksort that uses a random element or the median of the three method that uses the median of the leftmost, rightmost and middle element of the array. Switching to insertion sort on very small sub array between 5 and 15 elements for most computer systems are not sorting small sub arrays at all and finishing the algorithm with the insertion sort applied to the entire nearly sorted array. Modifications of the partitioning algorithm such as the three-way partition into segments smaller than, equal to and larger than the pivot. Limitations. It is not stable. It requires a stack to store parameters of subarrays that are yet to be sorted, while performance on randomly ordered array is known to be sensitive not only to implementation details of the algorithm but also to both computer architecture and data type. Now let us see Strasson's matrix multiplication direct method. Suppose we want to multiply 2 into n matrices A and B. Their product C is equal to AB will be an n by n matrix and will therefore have n square elements. The number of multiplications involved in producing the product in this way is theta of n cube. See the equation. Now let us see divide and conquer method. Multiplication of 2 cross 2 matrices. By using divide and conquer approach, we can reduce the number of multiplications. Such an algorithm was published by V. Strasson in 1969. The principal insight of the algorithm lies in the discovery that we can find the products of the 2 cross 2 matrices A and B with just 7 multiplications as opposed to the 8th required by the brute force algorithm. This is accomplished by using the following formula. See the formula. Thus, to multiply 2 cross 2 matrices, Strasson's algorithm makes 7 multiplications and 18 additions or subtractions, whereas the brute force algorithm requires 8 multiplications and 4 additions. Now let us see multiplication of n cross n matrices. Let A and B be two n cross n matrices where n is the power of 2. If n is not a power of 2, matrices can be padded with rows and columns of zeros. We can divide A and B and their product C into 4 n by 2 into n by 2 submatrices each as follows. See the figure. It is not difficult to verify that one can treat these submatrices as a number to get the correct product. For example, C00 can be computed either as A00 star B00 plus A01 star B10 or as M1 plus M4 minus M5 plus M7, where M1, 4, 5 and 7 are found by Sturgeon's formula with the number replaced by the corresponding submatrices. If the 7 products of n by 2 cross n by 2 matrices are computed recursively by the same method, we have Sturgeon's algorithm for matrix multiplication. Now let us see analysis. Here the basic operation is multiplication. If m of n is the number of multiplications made by Sturgeon's algorithm in multiplying two n cross n matrices where n is the power of 2, we get the following recurrence relation for it. See the figure. This implies m of n is equal to theta of n to the power of 2.807, which is smaller than n cube required by the brute force algorithm. Now let us see advantages and disadvantages of divide and conquer. Advantages: parallelism. Divide and conquer algorithm tend to have a lot of inherent parallelism. Once the division phase is complete, the sub problems are usually independent and can therefore be solved in parallel. This approach typically generates more enough concurrency to keep the machine busy and can be adapted for execution in multiprocessor machines. Cache performance. Divide and conquer algorithms also tend to have good cache performance. Once a sub-problem fits in the cache, the standard recursive solution reuses the cached data until the sub-problem has been completely solved. It allows solving difficult and often impossible looking problems like the Tower of Hanai. It reduces the degree of difficulty since it divides the problem into sub-problems that are easily solvable and usually runs faster than other algorithms would. Another advantage to this paradigm is that it often plays a part in finding other efficient algorithms, and in fact it was the central role in finding the quick sort and merge sort algorithms. Now let us see disadvantages. One of the most common issues with this sort of algorithm is the fact that the recursion is slow, which in some cases outweighs any advantages of this divide and conquer process. Another concern with it is the fact that sometimes it can become more complicated than a basic iterative approach, especially in cases with a large n. In other words, if someone wanted to add a large amount of numbers together, if they just create a simple loop to add them together, it would turn out to be a much simpler approach than it would be to divide the numbers up into two groups, add these groups recursively, and then add the sums of the two groups together. Another downfall is that sometimes once the problem is broken down into sub-problems, the same sub-problem can occur many times. It is solved again. In cases like these, it can often be easier to identify and save solutions to the repeated sub-problem, which is commonly referred to as memorization. Now let us see decrease and conquer approach. Decrease and conquer is a general algorithm design technique based on exploiting a relationship between a solution to a given instance of the problem and a solution to a smaller instance of the same problem. Once such a relationship is established, it can be exploited either top down, usually recursively, or bottom up. There are three major variations of the decrease and conquer. Decrease by a constant, most often by 1, example insertion sort. Decrease by a constant factor, most often by the factor of 2, example binary sort. A variable size decrease, example Euclid's algorithm. In the decrease by a constant variation, the size of the instance is reduced by the same constant on each iteration of the algorithm. Typically, this constant is equal to 1, although other constant size reductions do happen occasionally. See the figure decrease by 1 and conquer technique. Example, a to the power of n is equal to a to the power of n minus 1 into a. The decrease by a constant factor technique suggests reducing a problem instance by the same constant factor on each iteration of the algorithm. In most applications, this constant factor is equal to 2. See the figure, decrease by half and conquer technique. See the example. Finally, in the variable size decrease, variety of decrease and conquer, the size reduction pattern varies from one iteration of an algorithm to another. Example, Euclid's algorithm for computing the greatest common divisor. It is based on the formula GCD of m comma n is equal to GCD of n comma m mod n. Though the value of the second argument is always smaller on the right hand side than on the left hand side, it decreases neither by a constant nor by a constant factor. Now let us see topological sort. Background. A directed graph or digraph for short is a graph which with directions specified for all its edges. The adjacency matrix and adjacency lists are the two principal means of representing a digraph. There are only two notable differences between undirected and directed graphs in representing them. First, the adjacency matrix of the directed graph does not have to be symmetric. Second, an edge in a directed graph has just one, not two corresponding nodes in the digraph's adjacency list. Depth first search and breadth first search are principal traversal algorithms for traversing digraphs as well, but the structure of corresponding forests can be more complex than for undirected graphs. Thus, even for the simple example of a figure, the depth first search forest figure B exhibits all four types of edges possible in the DFS forest of the directed graph. Tree edges AB, BC, DE, back edges BA from vertices to their ancestors, forward edges AC from vertices to their descendants in the tree other than their children, and cross edges DC which are none of the aforementioned types. See the figure. Note that a back edge in a DFS forest of a directed graph can connect a vertex to its parent. Whether or not it is the case, the presence of the back edge indicates that the digraph has a directed cycle. A directed cycle in a digraph is a sequence of three or more of its vertices that starts and ends with the same vertex and is in which every vertex is connected to its immediate predecessor by an edge directed from the predecessor to successor. For example, ABA is a directed cycle in the digraph in figure given above. Conversely, if the DFS forest of a digraph has no back edges, the digraph is a DAG as an acronym for directed acyclic graph. Motivation for topological sorting. Consider the set of 5 required courses C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. A part-time student has to take in some degree program. The courses can be taken in any order as long as the following course prerequisites are met. C1 and C2 has no prerequisites. C3 requires C1 and C2. C4 requires C3 and C5 requires C3 and C4. The student can take only one course per term. In which order should the student take the courses? The situation can be modeled by a digraph in which vertices represent courses and directed edges indicate prerequisites requirements. In terms of this diagram, the question is whether we can list these vertices in such an order that for every edge in the graph, the vertex where the edge starts is listed before the vertex where the edge ends. In other words, can you find such an ordering of this digraph's vertices? This problem is called topological sorting. Now let us see topological sort. For topological sorting to be possible, a digraph in question must be a DAG. That is, if a digraph has no directed cycles, the topological sorting problem for it has a solution. There are two efficient algorithms that both verify whether a digraph is a DAG and if it is produce an ordering of the vertices that solves the topological sorting problem. The first one is based on depth first search. The second one is based on the direct application of the decrease by one technique. Now let us see topological sorting based on DFS method. 1. Performs a DFS traversal and note the order in which the vertices become dead ends. Reversing this order yields a solution to the topological sorting problem provided of course no back edge has been encountered during the traversal. If a back edge has been encountered, the digraph is not a DAG and topological sorting of its vertices is impossible. Now let us see illustration. Digraph for which the topological sorting problem needs to be solved. DFS traversal stack with the subscript numbers indicating the popping of order. Solution to the problem. Here we have drawn the edges of the digraph and they all point from left to right as the problem statement requires. It is a convenient way to check visually the correctness of the solution to an instance of topological sorting problem. See the figures A, B and C. Now let us see topological sorting using decrease and conquer technique. Method. The algorithm is based on the direct implementation of the decrease by one and conquer technique. First, repeatedly identify in an remaining digraph a source which is a vertex with no incoming edges and delete it along with all the edges outgoing from it. If there are several sources, break the tie arbitrarily. If there are none, stop because the problem cannot be solved. Second, the order in which the vertices are deleted yields a solution to the topological sorting problem. Now let us see illustration. Illustration of the source removal algorithm for the topological sorting problem is given here. On each iteration, a vertex with no incoming edges is deleted from the digraph. See the figures. The solution obtained by the solution obtained by the source removal algorithm is different from the one obtained by the DFS based algorithm. Both of them are correct. Of course, the topological sorting problem may have several alternative solutions. Applications of topological sorting: instruction scheduling in program compilation, cell evaluation, ordering in spreadsheet formulas, resolving symbol dependencies in linkers.